high temperature gas reactors, and fast reactors. So with topic area 10, at least for the advanced reactor development team, we're seeking proposals for activities that will help to address those technology-specific gaps in licensing technical requirements for advanced reactors. And we're also interested really in any activity that would help to reduce the regulatory risks for advanced reactors. So I expect that a lot of the activities that would be proposed would be researchy in nature. But if you have any innovative ideas on modernizing the regulatory framework to make it more applicable to advanced reactors or resolving any of these key policy issues, of course, we would be open to those types of ideas as well. And that's just a really high-level summary of the Advanced Reactor Regulatory Development Program. I'm going to pass it on to Jason Marcinkowski to talk about his program.
Hi, I'm Jason Marcinkowski. Oh, thank you, Janelle. And I manage the LWRS Light Water Reactor Sustainability Flexible Plant Operation and Generation Pathway, as well as our Integrated Energy Systems Program. And both of these areas look at systems that integrate nuclear reactors and their thermal energy into industrial processes that can produce fuels, chemicals, materials, and or electricity. So our goals are to enable the bring heat directly to major industrial and commercial applications, to convert nuclear energy into fuels for industrial and transportation applications, and to provide flexible electricity generation capacity to the grid with thermal energy storage systems. So with those goals in mind, essentially we're looking at situations where we have nuclear reactors in proximity to industrial facilities, and where we are interested in, and we're interested in the site integration and safety basis for those installations, whether they be light water reactors that have industries that are located near them, or new advanced reactors that are sited close to existing industries, or potentially all greenfield sites. So the safety and security is the factors that get introduced by that coupling of nuclear reactors with industry is fairly new. So we'd like to see this topic address some of those factors. Thank you. I think Savannah is next to speak.
Thanks, Jason. My name is Savannah Fitzwater. I'm the Federal Program Manager for the Advanced Reactor Safeguards and Security Program. So in this space, we do work for physical security and material control and accountability and cybersecurity for all classes of advanced and small modular reactors. So in this topic area, we would be interested in proposals that supported any and all of those areas. So safeguards and security that covers material control and accountability, MCNA, techniques and tools and applications, as well as new physical security methodologies that folks might be interested in exploring. There's a variety of cyber physical attacks that we are starting to look at, and we think there's a lot more interesting work that could be explored in this area if folks wanted to consider proposing that. But for the Advanced Reactor Safeguards and Security Program, we are focused specifically on the reactor itself, so that one part of the fuel cycle, but really a cross-cut of the various activities that could impact, or issues that could impact the reactor itself. So that I'll actually turn to Tansel.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Tansel Salekler. I am the Federal Program Manager for the hold on, I'm sorry. I should silence them before. I am the Federal Program Manager for the Materials Protection, Accounting, and Control Technologies, MPACT in short program. Dr. Michael Brown from Los Alamos National Lab is our program's National Technical Director, and he is on this call. And if you have any technical questions, he's standing by to answer them. As you all know, nuclear fuel cycle is very large, and materials control and accountancy spans the entire fuel cycle. MPACT program covers the front and back end of the fuel cycle. It was initiated back in 2010 to support domestic advanced fuel cycle developers to address nuclear materials accounting and control requirements. It is a technology-focused program. We focus on developing innovative technologies, analysis tools, and advanced integration methods, such as voltammetric and bubbler technologies for salt systems. Our program researches, develops, and deploys these technologies to enable next generation nuclear material management. We have both near and long-term R&D development. We develop tools and techniques to solve current domestic nuclear materials accounting and control, which is NMAC in short, problems, but also look out to future fuel cycle needs and develop tools and techniques that we feel will reduce NMAC burden and facilitate the implementation of those fuel cycle technologies. We also engage with industry and the government stakeholders early in the technology development process to enable a cost-effective implementation of safeguards by design for both front and back end stages of fuel cycle. So we are looking for new and novel MC&A technologies, methods, and tools to increase the accuracy, reliability, and efficiency of nuclear materials quantification, nuclear material tracking capability in nuclear fuel cycle facilities and processes, and process monitoring tools. Your applications must support NE's mission, like Guru mentioned at the beginning of this QA session. We encourage you to propose any technology beyond the traditional materials control and accountancy methods and techniques for fuel cycle nuclear materials accountancy challenges. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanzel. Becky, would you like to add anything for your program?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Becky Anashak. I'm a team lead for the Enabling Technologies team that does a lot of our cross-cutting work. You already heard Savannah mention cybersecurity, so without getting too much into the details, you don't have to worry about which program is which. Just a little bit about what we've done. Up until recently, I've been managing the cybersecurity R&D program. Savannah mentioned that's being merged in with safeguards and security, but because it's very recent, I can sort of talk to the kind of work we've done. But we do, really, it's been a very small niche program and very focused on nuclear specific aspects of cybersecurity, and it can be related to, we've generally focused on what's NRC regulated, so we don't usually look at the transmission and distribution system of things as much as the nuclear plant itself, its security, its control systems. We've done a lot of cybersecurity by design work, done some things to clarify regulatory guidance and come up with methods to actually apply a little bit more quantitative methods to risk evaluating cybersecurity, and looking at actual advanced technologies and devices. Because it's one of the most common questions we get, I will say what tends to make something cybersecurity nuclear is we're not generally looking at things that just improve cybersecurity for any kind of an industrial control system. If you've got a generic controller that's used everywhere, Homeland Security, CSER, the private sector, everybody's already looking at that. We tend to look at problems that other people are not looking at as closely for nuclear. We've awarded things, for instance, looking at specific kinds of reactor systems models and using those to differentiate anomalies from attacks. We've looked at the attack surface specific to nuclear power. We've looked at devices that are not as commonly used in other places and systems architectures, things like that. But typically we want to focus on things that are nuclear specific cybersecurity. And I will try not to speak for everyone. I know it's true for cyber. It's probably true for most of the other things here. This is such a broad area. There aren't even necessarily direct one-to-one relationships to programs for some of these. Like we don't have a separate safety program, for instance. But generally, when you're looking at which place to bin it, and historically, at least for cyber, we've said if it's pretty much a cybersecurity method above all else, this is probably the right place. If you're, for instance, developing a reactor model or you're developing a digital twin or something like that, and you say, I'm going to also make it secure, it probably belongs in that other area. So whichever is the strongest. And Drew will probably talk more to this. We do have ways to help. If we think something lands in the wrong place, we can try to help move it. But that's been generally the way we look at it for cyber, at least, probably for the other areas here as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Becky. And Drew, I think that's everyone from the federal staff.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And Becky, thanks for that explanation as well. I think that's helpful to kind of understand how we're binning these, and regardless of where they're banned, we'll make sure that the right groups get into those review groups to make sure that it's evaluated based on all of its aspects. All right. With that, thank you, program managers, for going ahead and taking a stab at explaining all of this really quickly. Savannah, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Drew. I wanted to add, well, Becky's explanation about, how we've historically done things is true. We also recognize there are some cases where, like, if someone wanted to look at a new measurement technique, it might benefit more than one area in the fuel cycle. So in both Tansel's area and mine. And we would encourage proposals to explain thoroughly what they're envisioning for that, but to not necessarily cut yourself short in feeling like it must only apply to one area or the other. We recognize there are cross-cutting applications, and we don't want to discourage that.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Savannah. Yeah, and that's one of maybe the benefits of these broader topic areas, is to allow for that, the cross-cutting nature of some of these techniques or technologies or ideas. So what I do want to maybe ask from the program managers before we get started with the question and answer is, if you do have program resources, meaning like a website link or something like that, where applicants can get direct information about the different programs, please feel free to toss those in the chat here, and we'll get those onto our question and answer for these sessions to make sure that we have the energy.gov website listed, but there's also some additional program resources on national laboratory websites or other things that might be helpful for folks. So if all of you could do that, if there's a site that you feel like would be helpful, that would be great. With that, what we'll do is we'll open up for a question and answer session. So we have 90 minutes booked up for this question and answer, and we will stay here until the questions run dry. You can ask questions in two different ways: either raise your hand and unmute yourself. If you do that, please introduce yourself by name and the institution that you represent. Or you can use the chat function and type questions into the chat, and we will relay them to program managers. So with that, we'll open up for questions. Go ahead. Charles Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, Charles Kelly, Harvard University. With respect to frameworks, could you discuss the variation between current frameworks and the new frameworks that you're expecting?
Sure. So as I'm sure that you're aware, the current regulatory framework is really set up to license the current fleet of reactors, so these large light water reactors. So with the Advanced Reactor Regulatory Development Program, we're working to modify and modernize that regulatory framework to make it more applicable to advanced reactors. So just to throw an example out there, the current EPZ, Emergency Planning Zone, for light water reactors is 10 miles. But some of the advanced reactors, they're a lot smaller. They have smaller source terms. So for example, we are working to make that emergency planning zone smaller. So there are a number of these types of activities where we're working to make the regulatory framework more applicable to these reactors that use non-light water reactor as the coolant.
Thank you. Next question. With respect to mandatory insurance, is anybody doing work on the liability size and the cost for SMRs and microreactors?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. As I understand it, the NRC has requirements for mandatory insurance for all reactors.
Mhm.
And so my question is anybody researching the variation between what's currently required and what would or could be required for SMRs and or reactors?
Sure. So I can't personally speak to what industry is doing. They may have programs that are looking at that activity, but in terms of our regulatory development program, no, that is not something that we are specifically looking at.
Thanks. And then the last question is on the GAIN page, you talk about your interactions between DOE and NRC. Could you elaborate a little bit about how the people on the call interact with NRC?
Sure. So at DOE, we have a great relationship with the NRC. We have extensive coordination with them. And in fact, we have something that's called a Memorandum of Understanding. And through that agreement with the NRC, we're able to share our technical expertise. And so, for example, the research that we do at National Labs, we're able to give the NRC access to that data. The NRC is able to learn from some of the activities that we're doing. In fact, we even have some NRC staff members that will come on detail to the DOE to gain access to that information. And I can open it up to any of the other federal staff on the line if you want to describe your program's interactions with the NRC. So I guess, yeah, just in summary, right, we do have a really close relationship with the NRC. We're working to share our technical expertise to help accelerate these licensing activities.
Thank you. That's all the questions that I have.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Charles. We'll continue staying open for questions. I'll point out that Savannah and Jason have added some program-specific websites on the Advanced Reactor Safeguards, Flexible Plant Operations, and Integrated Energy Systems sites for folks to check out if you're interested in those program activities. Other questions? All right, we'll do a last call for questions then, and I'll put some reminders out there for everybody. Pre-applications for this topic area 10, are due on July 26th, so a week from Wednesday. And this isn't the only interaction you can have with the NEUP team or with our program managers. If you do have additional questions after we take our final call here, please submit them to neup@inl.gov, and we will route those to the relevant program managers or answer those more, if they're more procedural, we'll answer those here at the integration office. I see we've got one more question. Xiao Shu, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm Xiaoxu from the Ohio State University. So we have a question. So currently, this topic is just looking for the proposal just for the current fleet or for the advanced reactors?
Janelle, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I'm trying to refresh my memory on whether this included the current fleet, but definitely it includes advanced reactors as well.
It does say it's for both. Like
It's for both. Okay, yes, that's what I
relevant in these areas.
right. I couldn't remember if it was both. Yeah, so this would support both the existing fleet as well as advanced reactors.
I see. Thank you.
And again, in that area, if a proposal is submitted in one area, a pre-proposal in one area, and we think really it fits better in another, and just, Drew, can you speak a little bit more about how we can shift that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Savannah. Yeah, so what Savannah is alluding to is if where, as Becky mentioned, if the majority of the activities that you propose solidly fit in one topic area, that's where we would encourage you to submit that application. If for whatever reason, after you submit the application and it's reviewed internally at DOE, there's program management feels that it would be more advantageous for that application to be in a different topic area, then we'll interact with you and make that suggestion and then get your buy-in on whether you'd want to change the topic area or not. I think the other thing that Savannah was alluding to is the fact that if you have a cross-cutting technology that's both light water and non-light water reactors, she mentioned before that would also be, not only she was talking about it in terms of the materials control and accountancy space, but any technology that's cross-cutting in that space would be seen just as favorably, and it would fit in these broader topic areas. So, Becky, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, based on things we saw even before, but especially now with these broader topics, the best advice I can give to helping with this is to just understand that the people looking at this are also reviewing this really broad topic. So I wouldn't assume it's obvious. Really take it on yourself to make the case. Look at the any mission. Really explain exactly what the benefit to that mission will be if you're successful, or what the follow-on work is after that, what it does and doesn't solve, what does it really gain. A lot of people like to dive right into the technical and assume we know that stuff, but really I would say try to make that case in these broad areas of what that relevance and what that benefit is.
Yeah, thanks for that, Becky. We're really, with these broader topic areas, we're really putting that responsibility on all of you as applicants to make the case for the specific technology, for this specific gap you're trying to address, or something else. And so instead of making them more prescriptive and a little bit more narrow, where it's a gap that's already been identified, that's a responsibility for all of you to try to help address, to make your case for why it's a gap, how the technology or the research meets that gap, and what the results will be. All right. Any last questions before we conclude? Okay. As a reminder, please use those program sites if you're curious about what's ongoing now. Reach out to us at nup@inl.gov if you have further questions before the pre-application deadline. And other than that, we will call this meeting a wrap. Thank you, everyone, all the program managers, for coming out to support, and for taking your time and energy to do so. Take care, everyone.
Thank